This is the Heart of the Matter short show from Salt Lake City, Utah. I'm your host, Shawn McCraney. We're learning how to walk together in the age of fulfillment. Before I get into our comments, I invite you all to tune in tomorrow night, Tuesday night, March 2nd, as I address the Ravi Zacharias story from a very, very different approach. Share it with your neighbors because what's gone on is absolutely ridiculous. Being in ministry to the LDS, I've had many people bemoan the fact that they grew up in the church, were duped by its doctrines, the false history, that they gave so much time and money and attention to the cause. And I used to be of the same opinion and wondering what I could have accomplished if I had never been Mormon. How great it would have been if God would have just let me be born into a Christian home and do that. And the same is true with many people who are ridden with guilt for years of alcoholism or drug addiction, for those people who are angry because their spouse was unfaithful to them, or people who are angry over the fact that they lost a child or somebody prematurely in their life. God, you have ruined my existence, things like that. Regrets for sin and shortcomings, anger for unfortunate and untimely events, accidents, despair over wasted or apparently lost time. And from the human perspective, I really get it. We want to be profitable in our lives. We want to have an idyllic life experience. You know, you start off in the starting blocks of perfection and you just keep running on this life that looks so wonderful. But as I've aged and I look back on life and what God has given me, I am more and more filled with gratitude for all that He has allowed me to face, endure, experience, and even suffer. Because in these things, I have become the person that I am in Him. Without them, it would never have happened. So I know that many people will say that. It's good because this is what God wanted, but often that's a means to cope with the apparent failure of their life up to that point. But I really think it's important as people of faith to try and develop an attitude that accepts what life you have been given thus far as something God has allowed and permitted. And I know it can be difficult, and depending on the challenges faced, I can understand why people can become bitter and faithless and even drop out of believing in God altogether. But from a perspective of faith, from the eternal perspective, it seems to me that this is the only approach that truly honors Him and who He is in our lives. Having worked through this myself, I am so grateful, very, very grateful that God had me born in an LDS home to LDS parents. And it's brought perspective. It gave me early structure as a kid that I otherwise would not have had in my parents' house. And I'm grateful that I was sexualized early as a child and that I had early obsessions with women as a result, and that I came into existence with very faulty wiring. I was really messed up in the way I was wired relative to my flesh. How else could I praise Him now for the grounds that He's made in my life with Christ in me if I hadn't experienced that at the get-go? So I'm grateful for the times that I have had some important items taken from me physically. In my life, I had a Bible that was bound in thick black leather, and it was about this big, and it had two latches on it, and it was custom made. And I spent years developing doctrine and theology, cross-referencing within the margins of that Bible. And one day I came out to my car, and it was stolen here in Salt Lake. Gone. Taken. Just like that. And I was like so mad, and I searched for like months to try to find that Bible. It was gone. Another time I was had a backpack, and I was in Huntington Beach doing the show, and I had a laptop that had years of material in it, years of show thoughts, years of notes, years of ideas, all sorts of things accumulated in that, and it was taken. Just like that, gone in an instant. And I was ravaged in my mind and heart at the loss that I had experienced. And then, of course, I lost my older brother suddenly. And no expectation of him to die, and he's dead. He's alive one day, he's dead the next. And so while those losses can make us feel angst and make us feel like a lot of pain, if I look back upon them in retrospect, I can see that God was working something out, or that God worked something out through those things happening. I'm not saying God did them. I'm not even necessarily saying he allowed them to happen. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But in the reality was he took those things and used them to my benefit and growth. From a human perspective, it can be really difficult to experience rejection and be fired, unemployed, to be sexually abused or objectified, controlled, tricked, lied, misled, all of those things. But from an eternal perspective, in the name of forging our character, I'm grateful to him for his wisdom, for his love, for the strength he gives to push through at difficult times so that we can come out tempered on the other side. If you are having difficulty with anger, resentment, bitterness, despair over lost opportunities, time past, painful things, you can change the perspective by seeing and believing and trusting that God will work all these things to your good and betterment if you'll let him. Write your comments below. We'll get to those on our long shows here on Heart of the Matter.